Have you ever noticed something? A lot of people don't actually struggle with the idea of God. What they struggle with is trust. Trust in people, trust in institutions, trust in spaces where faith was supposed to feel safe. And once trust breaks, faith can become that much harder. So today, I want to talk about why spiritual trust feels so risky and how we might be able to begin again. Over the past couple of weeks here at the Ravens Collective, we have been talking about trust. The first week we talked about just trust in general, just how there are things in life that we just trust every day, sometimes without even noticing. And then we dove into relational trust, how it gets complicated when we add relationships into the formula of how trust has been broken in our different relationships. And today I want to talk about spiritual trust. Why does trust sometimes feel harder when it comes to faith? Something interesting about the Bible is the word that we use for faith is intricately connected with the word trust. Faith isn't always about certainty. It's often about relational trust. Trusting that someone is good, trusting that someone is present, trusting that someone is faithful even when it doesn't all make sense. So faith isn't always about having all the answers. Sometimes it's simply about learning how to trust again. And this is why spiritual faith can feel risky. Because when we trust, we have to show a level of vulnerability. And that can make the spiritual trust dangerous, especially for those who have been hurt in spiritual spaces or who have had pressure when it comes to religion. That can feel very risky. Some may hesitate with spiritual trust because of past experiences, because of being misled, the fear of being disappointed again. And honestly, those hesitations make sense and they're totally valid. Trust always involves a level of risk. But one thing I find really wonderful about Jesus is the way that he approaches people. He never demands certainty. He never demands this instant belief. Instead, he often started with belonging, conversation, curiosity, questions. Many people began a relationship with Jesus before they understood everything. They asked questions, they observed, they followed from a distance. And over time, that trust began to grow. So faith didn't come with certainty. It often began with a relationship. So maybe faith doesn't always start with answers. Maybe it starts somewhere else. Maybe it starts with exploring. It starts with curiosity. It starts with someone slowly relearning how to trust again. Because sometimes the most meaningful spiritual journeys begin with someone who feels safe enough to explore again. So here's a question I have for you. What would make spiritual faith safe for you? What would make it feel safer for you? What would make you feel safe to enter into that space again? For some, it might be honesty. For some, it might be the ability to ask real, honest questions. And for some, it might simply be about being a part of a community that starts with conversation, starts with belonging before certainty. Wherever you are in that process and the journey, or even in this conversation, you are welcome here. Your curiosity is welcome here. Even your skepticism is welcome here. If this conversation resonates with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. What do you think makes spiritual trust difficult? What would help that trust to begin again in your life? And how could spiritual trust feel safer for you again? Thanks for being a part of the Ravens community. And if you want to dive deep and be in that belonging community with others who are on the same journey, go ahead and join our Facebook group. The details are in the description.